Welcome back to Loon's Leaves, y'all. Today we're making a modular herb garden. All right, y'all, so I am going to be using the Hang Oasi home. I'm not sure if I'm saying the company's name correctly. I'll put it up on the screen for you as well. This is the wall hanging planter that they sell. I bought it on Amazon. I don't know if they have their own website. I can do a little bit of research and put that up on the screen as well if you want to buy directly from them. It was about $57, I believe, and it is a product of Italy. So right out of the box here, it feels very sturdy, and it has this plastic part that you take off here. All of it is plastic, I should say. It's very lightweight material, but yet feels sturdy enough to be able to hold up the plants, but yet not be too heavy to hang on a wall. And there's this lid part that comes off. It has some holes in it. I'm not sure if you can see because they are quite small, where you can water the top of the herb garden while it still remains hanging on the wall. The water will come through the planter itself and then water whatever plants you have in here. So inside the herb garden, or I shouldn't call it an herb garden because it's just a general planter for wall hanging, but I, for this purpose, am going to use it as an herb garden in our kitchen. It comes with a bag of sphagnum moss that you have to rehydrate right inside, and it has these 6 openings here. So I'm gonna try to tilt it down so you guys can see them a little better. They have this kind of cute little leaf shape to them. I think that's so you can tuck parts of the plant in there so it kind of stays upright or goes the direction that you need it to go. It kind of suggests how to put the plant in. I think these are supposed to go this way, and then the ones at the bottom are supposed to go this way, so that way it has a nice flow to it, just like the photo on the box here has. It has directions on the other side of the box, but it did come with a nice little direction sheet with photos and directions on the back as well. So I'm going to take a few minutes to read through these. I'm going to rehydrate the sphagnum that is here that came with it in a couple of different bowls, and then I'll get to planting it all up. Just a few other things. I am going to be making this an herb garden, so I have purchased some herbs from my local grocery store. We have Giant out here in PA, so I have some cilantro, some basil, some parsley, mint, and rosemary, and I plan on separating the basil into 2. So I have 5 herbs total, and the basil is so large, it's this guy here in the front, that I plan on separating it into 2 of these little holes here. So I'm gonna get the sphagnum rehydrated and everything all set up and ready to go, and then we will get started planting it up. All right, y'all, so I put on an apron because it got a little bit messy in here. And I've been having the sphagnum moss soaking now for about 15 minutes, and it's soaking up the water very nicely. I didn't use the whole block, so there's still some in here. I think they give you more than you need, which is great. Like, I'd rather have more than I need than not enough. And it filled up these pretty big mixing bowls fairly well. So I'm gonna keep those here. And then I have my herbs, and I did a little prep work on the herbs as well. It suggested to take whatever plant you're planting out of the nursery pot and run it underwater so all of the roots are exposed. Because I think ideally they just want your plant to be potted into the sphagnum moss for the best success. However, some of my herbs were so root bound in those pots from the grocery store that I can't really get them out of that form. So I'm just gonna let them be as is and kind of stick them in here and see how it goes. We're gonna just try it out. Again, this is a test. We're kind of doing a mini review on this if you were to change it into an herb garden instead of just a regular planter. So I am going to now fill my planter with the sphagnum moss. They suggest putting a piece of like cardstock, sliding it in there, and then filling it up as it stands like this, and then removing that piece of cardstock so the sphagnum doesn't fall through the holes. But I'm gonna end up planting it like this anyway, and then kind of flipping it up and seeing if I like the placement of everything. So for now, I'm just gonna start putting the sphagnum in all of the little holes here and then placing the herbs where I want them to go. So far it's going really well. I love that they gave more sphagnum than needed, and I think this is gonna work out well for what I need. The next part with me planting it up, I'm going to speed up the process just so you guys don't have to sit here for that long watching me plant up some herbs. I do have some cilantro, parsley, mint, rosemary, and basil. I separated my larger basil because it came in one big pot into two, and I actually think they ultimately planted both of them in one big pot to make it look fuller anyway because it split really easily. Alrighty, so let's get to the planting. All right, so I have everything planted up in here. I used most of the sphagnum moss. There's still some soaking in this bin here, and there's also still some in the bag, but I did need more than I thought I would. I ended up having to soak a bit when I started the planting process. I'm not sure how aesthetically pleasing this is going to be hanging up. It is a little bit funny right now because some of the parsley and the cilantro hangs down kind of like a vining plant would, and the rosemary and the mint hang out more like straight because they have nice stick stalks, and then the basil's kind of somewhere in between. So they're not all going like the same direction. I did try to figure out how to aesthetically have the plants lean for when they are hanging on the wall. And hopefully once they get under the sunlight too, some of these will perk up, or I should say the light bulb, because I am hoping that the under cabinet lighting here will be enough to keep these guys happy and healthy. If that isn't the case, then I will install like a grow strip right where the under cabinet lighting is, probably for them, so that way they can maintain the greenness and the healthiness that they need. So hopefully they perk up a little bit. They've been in the grocery store for a while, and then they kind of just went through that brutal experience of me pushing them in there to plant them. Overall, it was fairly easy to plant up. I used a lot of the sphagnum moss, but I also used some of the soil that was already on the plants. As you probably saw in the time lapse, there is a little bit of a root ball there with some soil in there. So there is soil and sphagnum both in here. Now, some of the soil, and I know this is because a lot of this stuff is wet right now because of the sphagnum, is getting stuck on the nice white surface of this planter. So I'm going to clean it up a little bit, and then I'm going to hang it on the backsplash back there. Now, I do not have the ability to drill into my backsplash. We are in an apartment building, so I have purchased this clear tape that is supposed to hold quite a few pounds off of Amazon. I will have it linked below for you guys, and it seems like it'll work out pretty well. I've tried it on a few other smaller projects and it has, so I'm gonna use a combination of this, and then I also have a little bit of these strips. They're like command strips but larger, so I'm gonna use command strips, these strips, as well as the tape to hopefully get the most secure hold onto that backsplash as possible, because it is kind of a slippery tile. I plan on covering the entire backside of this planter in some sort of adhesive, whether it be the command, the tape, or the other kind of knockoff command strip strippies, just to ensure that it stays up there. I would say at this point it is around 5 to 7 pounds. I wouldn't say it's that heavy. I don't even know if I would go to 7, but it is got a little bit of a heft right now. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the sphagnum is completely damp, and the soil on a lot of the herbs is also quite damp. So this is probably the wettest it's ever going to be, which is why it is so heavy. So I'm gonna cut. You guys don't have to watch me struggle to hang this up, and then I will come back with my final thoughts. All right, so some final thoughts. First of all, it's hung, it's staying on the wall, That's exciting. Like, I was unsure about how well some of the adhesives that I had planned for hanging it on that backsplash would work. I am going to take you guys off of the tripod and bring you in a little closer so you can get a closer up look in a second here. But before I do that, I decided to ultimately just go with this clear tape that I purchased off of Amazon. And I used a pretty good amount of the roll. If you remember seeing it earlier in the video, it was a little bit probably much thicker. And I covered the entire back with tape. There is not one piece of that back that is exposed and is not covered in some sort of this adhesive tape. So it is all ready to go. I do wish that I had put the adhesive tape on before I decided to plant it up. It does have this plastic coating on the one side, so it doesn't have to be double-sided until you want it to be. Therefore, I wish I had stuck this all on there before it got all messy in here, and I could really make sure the adhesive was on there by pressing it down, but I couldn't do that when the plants were in there. Also, if I wasn't doing this for a video, I think it would have been better to put the adhesive on the back, make sure it's on there nice and well before the plants are in, and hang it on the wall before the plants are in. It would have been a little bit more messy to do the entire planting process while it's already hanging on the wall, but I would have felt a little bit better about that adhesive really getting stuck on that wall before I put the plants in there. And I could have pressed it really hard onto the wall, really made sure there were no air bubbles back there by sticking my hands inside the little holes and feeling that back panel, but I couldn't do that again with the plants in there already. So overall though, I really love this planter. Is it worth $60? Maybe not so much. I did receive it for a birthday gift, so I personally think that it was worth it because I'm not the one that purchased it and I'm really happy with my results, but it is a higher priced planter for what it is. I do think it'll be very easy to water in the little holes up here. There are also, I didn't really notice this until I was hanging it on the wall, there are two little vents on the side there at the bottom that you could probably stick some very thin watering can into and bottom water if you think that the ones on the bottom are not getting enough water that way from the top. But yeah, overall, I love this planter. So let's bring it in for a closer look. All right, so here she is in all her glory, looking fabulous. I love the modern and the sleek design of the planter itself. I love the white. I think it goes so well with our kitchen's aesthetic of the white backsplash and the white cabinetry that we have. The only thing that I wish I had done a little bit differently, other than applying the adhesives before starting, is getting plants that are a little bit fuller, because there are a few where this sphagnum moss is exposing itself, and that's kind of not the vibe that I wanted to go for, because as you can see on the box here, they picked really full, lush plants, and it kind of covers up the fact that there are 6 holes in the planter and looks more like just a garden box hanging on your wall. So in the future, would definitely pick a fuller plant and something that stands up a little bit more like tall, because like this rosemary looks really good. The basil looks pretty full and great, but these guys, the parsley and the cilantro, first of all, are kind of flowing together. So that's going to be confusing. I might need to put little markers on there for which one is which. And this mint is just so tiny. I wish I'd picked a second one up to kind of fill in the bottom there. So hopefully they get a little bit more full as they grow and I won't really have to worry about that. And I might even add like a string onto here and tie it around the corner, or maybe put a mini hook right here to hold these guys up, just so that way they kind of are floofed up a little bit and they're not as close to the countertop here where there is some soil from when I cleaned up the planter. Overall, I love this thing. Would definitely rate it at least an 8 out of 10 in my mind. Only reason it's getting an 8 out of 10 is because of A, the price point is a little higher than I would think it needs to be for this. However, it does come with most everything you need besides the plants. It also is receiving an 8 out of 10 for me, just because these openings are, I know they have to be kind of large to fit the plants in, but I almost feel like they're a bit too large for this kind of modular wall setup situation. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if you guys want to see an update on the planter and more content like this. Bye!